Hello everyone, today I'm going to show you the sketches I made during my recent trip to Portugal. It was part of the Sketch Tour Portugal project in conjunction with the Tourist Board of Portugal and the Urban Sketchers organisation. We used these beautiful notebooks made by La Loran for the trip, handmade in Portugal, really gorgeous, lovely size, lovely paper. So let's jump in. Okay, my tour was the Algarve. And I made the trip over a period of about 6 days, from the 20th of March to the 26th of March, with a fellow urban sketcher, Elio Boto, who's from the Algarve. We travelled together, we drew together, and we socialised together during the trip. Our guide was Susana Neff from the Portuguese Tourist Office, and she was amazing, she was brilliant. So let's jump in. We started our trip in Olhão, and this is the Parque Natural da Ria Formosa. Our themes, Helio's and my themes, were gastronomy, nature, and sun and sea. So this one falls under the theme of nature. Beautiful park, bird sanctuary. Wherever you sat, you could hear birds cooing and chirping away in the background. It was really, really lovely. The only fly in the ointment was that we had an unseasonably cold week. And I was freezing, and as I came to the end of the sketch, my fingers were white claws. Now you can see the flamingos aren't pink. That's because they don't eat that krill that makes them pink. But this is the Ria Formosa, and then it runs parallel to the sea, which is just behind that headland. So after I froze to death and couldn't take any more, I went to find Elio, and I found him near these trees, these stone pines. I was just drawing them, and the sun was gorgeous, and then Susana walked past, and she made the perfect subject under the trees. So I called out to her, stop, little to the left, little to the right, and drew her. She's very obliging. Look, she's even got her foot lifted for me. And Elio drew me shouting at Susana, which was a very funny sketch, complete with speech bubble. Just before we left the park, I found these agaves, which I thought were just fabulous. I love drawing agaves because it really suits me to draw these shapes. This, almost like a roller coaster, the way they go up and down and turn, and they're so fluid and strong, and they don't move in the breeze, and they're just fabulous. They're also very easy to colour. You just paint them yellow and wait for it to dry, and then paint green stripes on top. So yeah, that suits me too. After the park, we stopped for lunch, and we had a cataplana, which is a beautiful mixed seafood dish. Mussels, clams, prawns, crab, garlic, peppers, cardamom, fennel, cloves. Beautiful dish, very, very, very homemade tasting, and served out of this sort of double beaten copper traditional pot. So then we went to the Ilhas Barreiras, which is the Barrier Islands, just to the south of Faro. There's a couple of islands, little small islands, just off the sandbanks there, and they're gorgeous little islands. But this is our journey over, and I just really enjoyed drawing the ferrymen having a very animated discussion as they manned their craft. It's a bit wider than it looks here, but sure, what harm. We arrived at Farol. I think Farol is the southernmost island, and it's covered with these what used to be illegal dwellings, but they've all got full permission now. They were kind of given an amnesty. But this one really caught my eye. I loved the yellow, the white, the blue shadows, and of course the beautiful agave in the garden in the front. So beautiful. Yeah, beautiful island, and it was really nice. As I sat here, Susana came along, and she sat in the path beside me, and she said, when I was a little girl, I used to go on my little pink bicycle, and I would go for a long time, and I would be all on my own, and I would collect pine nuts, and I would eat them, make a big feast. And she said, I think I'll do that now. So she found loads of pine cones lying around, and she decided to make us a feast. And she sat there hammering away beside me with a rock, and I was sketching, and it was sunny, and I just thought, oh yeah, this is great. And I'd never had a fresh pine nut before. So when Susana handed me the pine nut, big handful of pine nuts, I was like, wow, it was really amazing. So thank you, Susana. So after that, went for a little walk to try and find Elio on the island. And it's a very small island, so it didn't take me long to find him. And the two of us sat by this beach And by this stage, it was really cold. This was kind of a feature of those early days. Sunny, but really, really cold. And we sat and drew this while we were waiting for our ferry to arrive. Taxi boat man waiting for, I don't know, customers, I suppose. And I was really envious when I saw these two people getting onto his taxi boat. And then I thought, gosh, think how cold they must be going back over the water towards the mainland. And then this fisherman came in. He was collecting, I don't know what he was collecting, but that explains all the seagulls. So finally we got home, went to a lovely restaurant in Faro, and all the cold was forgotten, as it tends to be. So next day we went to Faro and we drew a few things. And I drew this stork in his nest. And I love the storks in the nest. Wherever they were, I wanted to draw them because they're I don't know what it is about storks in the nest, but to me they're just really cute, and I really enjoyed drawing them. You see them everywhere in Portugal. These beautiful storks sitting in these enormous nests, very Dr. Seussy, at the tops of churches. So this was just outside the old walled part of Faro. So after that, we did a bit more sketching. I loved the orange trees in this old part of the square. And you see this man here leaning against the tree. Well, he had come up this street, coughing and hacking, hacking onto the street, as if he was, I don't know, very, very close to an aneurysm or something. And a woman approached. I thought, that man needs help. He needs medical help. So a woman approached him and she said something to him, and I thought, oh great, she's going to take him to the doctor. That's fantastic. But then I saw him posing, so she was clearly telling him to stand still for a photo. And then I thought, well, she'll take him to the doctor after that. And then she called him Santi for Santiago. So she was his wife, I think. So anyway, that was Faro, and then some more storks, my lovely storks, which I love so much, and some street signs. And then we went for lunch in a place called Taverna Modesto, which served these amazing razor clams, fresh and plump and firm and delicious. And they're called Lingurau a Bulhão Pato. So Bulhão Pato apparently is the man who invented the recipe, fresh coriander and garlic and lemon, delicious. I had feijoada because I'd always heard of feijoada, and I had feijoada with Lingurau. Spelt in various different ways by me, so sorry about that. And here's the terracotta pot that the feijoada came in, and yeah, oysters, fabulous lunch. Hard to forget a beautiful place like that. Then in the afternoon we went to Quinta do Lago, which is kind of like a rich person's playground sort of resort. Not a blade of grass out of place. Just one of those places that, beautiful and very fabulous if you end up there on holidays. Wouldn't be 100% my cup of tea. I like my Portugal a little bit more rough and ready, I suppose. But I can see the attractions of Quinta do Lago. Very beautiful, very fancy houses and all that kind of thing. But we crossed the Ria Formosa to get to the beach along this boardwalk, I suppose to prevent too much erosion. And the boardwalk ends in a kind of a fancy bar called the Bar Gigi. And down we went underneath and we sketched from underneath and drew the people walking past for a bit of a focal point. Here's this guy, he's French. You can see he's kind of French. His hair blowing in the wind. Can't you see his French face? This man, I can't remember where he was from. I think he might have been British. But it was lovely under there, out of the wind, and one of the commenters online said, "I can feel the heat from the sand," which is really nice. But heat, there wasn't much of. Sunshine, yes. Heat, not so much. So that was Quinta do Lago. And actually, just beside Bar Gigi, there was this magnificent sculpture, which was red metal and like all these multicolored scales. But unfortunately, I found it just too hard to paint them all in. That was just a bit beyond my skill. So that was lovely. And then at the end of the day, we went for another lovely meal, and then we went to Lulé, to our hotel. Lulé is in the mountains, just north of Faro. And we drew in the fish market on the Friday morning because it was pouring rain. And So these are goose barnacles, which I'd never seen before. I'd heard about them, but I'd never drawn them or seen them. They call them percebes in Portuguese, which apparently translates as understands, you know. So like when you see them on a menu in English, it says understands. It's kind of funny. Susanna asked the fishmonger if he minded if I drew, and he was like, no, you're fine, just don't block the customers. So anyway, I drew away, and he left his daughter in charge. And then 4 people came up, party, 2 men, 2 women, probably in their late 60s or thereabouts, and they were clearly Dutch by their accent. And one of the men said to the fishmonger's young daughter, he said, "What are these called in English?" And she said, "I don't know." So I said, "Oh, they're goose barnacles." And he didn't acknowledge me. He's a very rude man. And he said, "They look disgusting." And I said, "Well, they're very special, I believe." I didn't say it to him, but apparently fishermen tie ropes around themselves, abseil down the sides of cliffs into the churning seas to collect these guys, and sometimes they don't come back. So that's reflected in the price. And the Dutch guy was all, "They are very expensive." But anyway, he's a rude man, and his shouting about them, and I felt offended on behalf of these beautiful creatures. Yeah. So here we get some gamina da costa, gambona, big prawns, little prawns, oysters. After that, I went to draw something else, and I found an extremely cross lady, which I was frightened of. So I gave her a smile instead of a big scowl, which is what she had, because I was scared she'd come over and look, and then she did. And she scowled and scowled, and I said to her in my crap Portuguese, "Oh, I very bad draw. Is not very like you. I draw market. Fish very nice." Something like that, I don't know. Anyway, she just continued to scowl, no recognition, nothing in her eyes, went back to her fish, shrugged, very cross. So I left, and I drew this man on the other side. There was actually a nice, well, not a very nice, but a blonde fishmonger here, and her friend. So instead of drawing her, I drew this guy, and he was grand. He was happy enough to be drawn. Showed all his friends the sketch. And then just as I was going, I saw these stunning fish. Could not possibly resist these stunning fish. So Safio is eel, and these lovely eels. And Patahosha is dogfish. So you can see they've got little spotty snouts. They've got their skins off. And Sargo, I'm not sure. Maybe sea bass, sea bream, not sure. Thought it was kind of sad in a big heap. A bit like, I don't know, children of the sea. You know, sea children in a big pile, dead. Their eyes glazed in horror. Caught. But, you know, that's probably over dramatic. Probably have the same expression if they're, you know, full of joy or whatever. These guys are called huivo, also kind of, you know, eyes stunned. They look a bit more thoughtful, I think. Anyway, huivo means ginger, like redhead. So there you go. That's huivo. And then after lunch, we went to a lovely national park called Fonte Benemola. Lovely, again, bird sanctuaries. A lot of bird sanctuaries around the Algarve. It's a very, very wild kind of place. What do I have written here? This is what was on the sign. Grey wagtail, Eurasian eagle owl, nightingale, kingfisher, red rumped swallow, wryneck, and chiffchaff, which is a nice name, but I have no idea what it is. And I saw an owl on a, I don't know, telegraph post on the way up, which made me very excited. And just as we were going to get back into the car, there was a big toad beside the car, and I think he's called a western spadefoot toad, according to Google Images, and that made me very excited. And again, lots of agaves, so happy me. And here I'm drawing in brown ink because my black had stopped working. That evening we went to Villamora for dinner, and more lovely fresh fish, the robalo grillado, so I don't know, grilled sea bass, I think. Borrego estufado, that's beef stew that Elio had, fresh orange juice, delicious. And I had gravid lax, which was yum. It's a Swedish restaurant, very nice. And then after that, in the morning, we went to Montchique, which is this like thermal like spa town, and it's in the hills. It's very green, loads of trees. And Susanna and I walked up the hill to this lovely waterfall gushing down with thermalized water, mineralized water, that's bottled and sold. But it's just gorgeous. And everywhere you drew, I mean, you could hear trickling streams and splashing water, and it's really lovely. So Elio was a little downstream of us drawing away, and when he finished his drawing, he came up and did another quick sketch. So I drew him. So this is Elio, and this is about Susanna sitting beside him. And this is very Elio sitting on his stool and drawing away. And Susanna, I was saying, Susanna, stop talking. And she was going, but I am not talking, because she was trying to draw her mouth. Not that it makes any difference the way I draw mouths, but then, oh, and in that morning, Francisco, the cameraman, joined us. He was tasked to make some movies of us drawing and some of the places we visited, and we got on great, the four of us. It was a real treat, the way we had such a good time together. This is where we went for lunch in Sagres. Beautiful, strong, early afternoon sunlight, casting shadows across the table. But that's the Algarve for you, just always so bright and strong sunshine. And then in the afternoon we went to Praia da Mareta, which is this gorgeous beach of golden sand and golden rocks, and it was lovely to draw there with the sound of waves all around me, and there's this lone surfer heading out to catch a wave, and then after a while we could hear splashing of fish, and if you could see the curling waves, if you looked at the curling waves, you could see the little fish, I don't know, messing, playing, I don't know, frolicking in the water. So then while Elio finished his last sketch, excuse me, I did this drawing of the beautiful golden rocks and pinky golden and everything. Lovely family scene here, little boy chucking stones, and yeah, everybody all very happy. After that we went to Praia do Beliche, which is a well-known surfing beach and one of Susanna's favourite beaches, if not her favourite beach. And we went down millions of steps to the very bottom, and I was kind of grumbling to myself about climbing back up them because I'm a bit lazy. But it was lovely down there, just surfers coming in, and it reminded me of my surfing days and off the coast of County Clare. Just a lovely vibe, really happy vibe, happy surfy vibe. So that was Praia de Beliche, and then, was it after that? Oh no, that was the end of that for sketching. And the next morning, this is Sunday morning, the 25th of March, we found this beautiful beach called Praia da Amoreira, along the west coast, and it was so windy. Can you see how windy it was? Look at those surf waves crashing in, and I've had bad experiences with sand and paints, because you can't get sand as your paints if it blows in. So I was a bit paranoid, but no sand got into my paints, and I made this drawing. I really enjoyed drawing there. Lovely, strong composition. Really love it. Then after that, we climbed into the mountains. We went to Algarve, which is a castle dating back to 1249. And I had to find a view that would combine the massiveness of the castle walls with the feeling of the distance down the hillside into the village. So I drew through the entrance, and there was loads of people coming, and there was a horrible old gate there. I don't know, shut it at night time or something. And I chose to leave that out. And when Francisco was looking at my drawing, I said, I left the gate out, I feel a bit bad. And I said, but the maintenance guy came along and took it, and he's just brought it back now. And, which wasn't true. We laughed because the Portuguese and the Irish kind of share attitude to maintenance, which is, sure, why would you bother? So yeah, the gate didn't go anywhere, and it didn't come back, and it's not in my drawing. Anyway, after a while, an Englishman came through, a small, dark-haired man, looking actually very Portuguese, and he looked over my shoulder and he went, do you like drawing? And I said, yeah, I do, I like drawing. He said, oh, yeah, drawing, I can't draw me. And then he said, I live in Spain, man. And I said, you live in Spain? He said, yeah, but I'm thinking of coming over here to Portugal to live. And I said, oh, how lovely. And he was a builder. And then he addressed Susanna, and he said, I think he knew Susanna was Portuguese, but he said to her, helpfully I suppose, he said, I speak the lingo, I think he's meaning Spanish. He said, but Spanish and Portuguese, they're not entirely the same. And she kind of nodded politely. He said, they're not all the same, not all the words are the same. And I thought, that's helpful, thank you. Very, very, very kind. I don't know, did he know she was Portuguese? I think he did. Anyway, odd. But Susanna was much nicer than me, and she said to me afterwards, he was a nice man. He's going through a divorce, and he's starting a new life in Portugal. Much more charitable than me. After that, we went to Pedralva for lunch, and after lunch, Pedralva is this little village that was all decrepit and falling to bits, and a local guy bought the whole village, and he converted it into a holiday village. So every single little house, practically all of them anyway, can be hired as a little, holiday house. So it's really pretty, gorgeous little village, and I really enjoyed drawing this scene because, you know, how could you not, really? And then after that, I had a bit of time left, so I drew the other end of Pedralva. So this is just up the road, and it was lovely because there's children running freely around the streets. There's practically no cars, but I loved the colours, the combination of green and red, and then the terracotta roof. So that's that. And if you would like to see, I've got 2 more, so I'll get those for you now. So on to the last couple of sketches. We thought this was going to be our very last sketch of the day, actually of the whole tour. This was Sunday evening and I was due to fly back the next morning. But it was so cold, and I thought, oh God, we have to get out of the car. It was so cold. But we did, and we stopped at a place called Valle Figueras, and I was so cold, and it was so windy, and the paint refused to dry, so it was very hard to paint. But luckily, Francisco stopped to take a shot of Susana. This is Susana walking up the long, windy road down to the beach. And I really like this extremely, I don't know, 10-second sketch of Francisco. I think it's something very lively about it. But anyway, so this is Susana, and this is sun setting, and so very lovely. And then we stopped, went for dinner, and I really thought that was that. I was done with sketching, but I didn't bank on this beautiful table setting with everything sort of terracotta or orange. And this is Susana, this is Francisco, and there's lovely things they had. I think Francisco had tuna tartare with lemon sorbet. Susana had octopus carpaccio. This is a montadito de legumas, which is like a little pile of vegetables. But what really caught my eye was the way they served the tea. Cha, preto, black tea. I love the way they put the napkin around it. It looked like, I don't know, a superhero. And the milk bottle looked like a babushka. I don't know why milk, I don't know babushka, but it did. And so that made us laugh because, you know, we're easily amused. And this is Susana's soup, which came in a Kilner jar. Yeah, very nice. So that was the very last sketch of the tour, and I hope you enjoyed it. And I loved it. I was so excited to be asked. And yes, I'm learning Portuguese, and you know, doing my best to become more proficient in it. And I love the language, love the people, love the food. Can't wait to go back. So yeah, what can I say? Tudo bem. Adios.